Today we're going to talk about sanitary in bakery products. Bakery product sanitation. Food processing plants must use GMPs, SPS, SSOBs as legal requirement to achieve acceptable sanitation conditions. The GMP and SPS in bakery products plants must answer these questions in order to achieve an acceptable measurements. First, describe relation between sanitation of the plant and the product wholesomeness and cleanliness. 2. Is the management doing any measures for disease control? 3. Is the ground condition protected from contamination? 4. Are the plant facilities in sanitary conditions? 5. Is the plant equipped with enough sanitary facilities? 6. Are the equipment and utensils properly maintained and cleanable? 7. Are all the processing processes done with proper sanitation principles? Second, the SSOB in bakery product must answer these questions. Do you understand the meaning of a responsible person? 2. Do you know that your establishment must maintain daily records enough to take corrective action if needed? 3. Do you know that you must provide written SSOBs that contain the procedure made to prevent cross-contamination? 4. Do you know the responsibility of your establishment? 5. Do you know the responsibility of the establishment to maintain SSOB? 6. Do you know that government require you to take corrective actions when SSOB fail to prevent contamination? 7. Do you know that the establishment must provide daily records to document implementation of SSOB? Then we're going to talk about the HASP. Most bakery establishments use GMB, SSOB, SPS, and the big establishments apply HASP as well, even though it's not mandatory. If the establishment won't implement HASP, it must hire someone expert for it. Now we're going to talk about some critical hazards for different bakery products. In the bread, molds can grow in low moisture. Bread by Rhizopus stolonifer, which is the most common. Roughness also occurs due to Bacillus subtilis. Pastas, spoilage done by bacteria, fungi, yeast like Salmonella aureus. The toxin isn't activated by cooking. In pastries, pastry filling is considered PHF. In cereal grains, if moisture passes 10%, mold will grow, and the pests appear during all processes. In the cereals ready to eat, it's a breeding ground for microorganisms without GMP and SSOB. It's preferred no wet cleaning of the establishment. In flour, all types contain microorganisms. Soya flour has higher moisture and microorganisms. Finally, the refrigerated doughs spoiled by lactobacillus and leuconostoc species, while this is expected. Now let's talk about the standards for bakery products in the US. The FDA has established specific standards for identification of bakery products for internal comments in the US. If an enterprise processed one or more products, it should comply with these specific standards to facilitate the economic integrity in its commercial application. The phrase bread refers to the unit weight 1.5 pound or more after cooling. The phrases rolls and buns refer to the unit weight less than 1.5 pound after cooking. Bread, buns, and white rolls are produced by baking yeast leavened dough made from the following: 1. Leavening agent, 2. Moisturizing material, 3. Farinaceous material. The food may contain extra ingredient. Each finished end product contains as little as 62% CS. All raw materials from which food is made shall be safe.
I'm gonna talk about some critical sanitary practices for manufacturing bakery products. For example, we have equipments, including containers. The solo precautions are sterilization requirement according to each equipment and written instructions. Food handlers, good hygienic practice, HACCP, assessment and analysis of risk, plant maintenance, reports keeping and monitoring the problems. There are also some critical hazards for raw materials, such as flour. Hazards include microbial contamination and chemical residues. Salt, foreign objects such as dust and dirt. Oil, microbial contamination. Water, chemical residues such as pesticides. First molding, dust or dirt from conveyor belt. Loading and transport, spoilage by microorganisms.
The following raw materials that are used in making bread or any other bakery products: flour or other types of it, water, any type of yeast that has leavening effect, salt, shortening, which can be used alone or combined with other compounds, as the following, such as lecithin, mono and diglycerides, milk, eggs, nutritious carbohydrates, sweeteners, active enzymes, lactic acid bacteria, non-wheat flours, meals, grits, wheat and non-wheat starches that any of them may be completely or partially dextrinized, ground dehulled soybeans that may be treated thermally and the oil is removed, yeast nutrients and calcium salts. There are two types of chemical additives involved. The first type, potassium bromate, calcium bromate, potassium iodate and calcium peroxide. The second type, azothiocarbonamide. The Dove strengtheners and conditioners not listed in this paragraph. The other ingredients are spices, spice oil, and spice extract. The coloring may be added except that present in butter or margarine. The other ingredients in which their basic identity doesn't change. The food may be named as bread, white bread, rolls, or buns as applicable. When the food content is not less than 2.56% of the egg solids, so the food will be named as egg bread, egg roll, or egg buns. One medium-sized egg represents 0.41 of whole egg solids. The flow chart for manufacturing wheat breads. The first step is receiving the raw material, then measuring the flour moisture and the protein content. Fermentation, intermediate brewing, molding, second brewing, and then baking the bread or the dough of bread. Then it is cooled. Mixing, final dough temperature, and then dividing the dough into pieces. Measure the weight of each dough piece, then slicing and packaging. The final step is measuring the net weight and removing all the metals and foreign matter. Biological hazards, time temperature control. Some cereal products such as baked goods can maintain safe at room temperature, while others such as cooked grains like rice require time temperature control after the preparation due to the increase in water activity. A variety of microorganisms such as mold, yeast, and coliform occur naturally in grains and milled products. Inhibition of mold growth and controlling the pathogens is performed by drying the products. Raw ingredients such as eggs and meats in making dough products may provide salmonella species. Pasta dough that is processed at warm temperature provides the Staphylococcus aureus and also Bacillus cereus for cooked rice. Both are considered to be potential hazards. There are some reasons that may justify the shelf stability for baked and fried cereal grain products that have a high water activity. They have a long history of safe storage at ambient temperature, pre-clod pathogens growth, and are formulated to include ingredients that improve product safety and stability. The bakery establishment and sanitation. Each commercial bakery establishment should implement the GMP, SSOP, or HACCP program.
Alright, now let's talk about some important definitions. The first definition would be bakery. any location or organization where the processing of bakery commodities take place. When it comes to the bakery products, it is any human consumable food, such as pies, cakes, breads, donuts, the things that we eat usually for breakfast or whenever we get hungry from bakery shops. Commercial bakery. It means that any distributable bakery products, something that is commercially sold for the public. Container or package, which is renowned by the physical barrier or the barrier that wrap the material around the bakery goods which are sold in. Corrosion-resistant material, which is representative of any material of original characteristics, keeping qualities, properties under long contact with food material. Distributor, which means any human whose function to sell, market, or sell any bakery product. Food contact surface, the utensil, equipment, uppermost layers where food lies into physical contact with. Then we move to define the hazardous substances, which are any object that is of corrosion, toxic, irritating, sanitizing nature, or flammable material. All hazardous and should not be consumed. Manufacturing, which is a process of handling of raw material or ingredients into an edible and distributable product. Perishable food, any food materials that would spoil, become unsuitable for human consumption. We should not eat it. PHF, which is an abbreviation for potentially hazardous food, which means any food that is subjected to rapid perishability, such as milk. There are, of course, some criteria that should be followed regarding few main points, such as the personnel and facility sanitation, the constructions, and so on. When it comes to the personnel and facility sanitation, some rules must be followed, such as covering the hair, which is of course a must. All workers should be free of cuts or any signs of infections or diseases. All workers should have clean white clothes on, and always wash hands regularly, as it is of course a must. The lavatories inside the facilities should always be ventilated to the outside direction, and they should have a constant lack of odors that should be maintained. A flush grade toilet should be always available. Doors and entrances must be tight, solid, and not directly connected to the production hall to avoid further contamination from lavatories to the production hall. Lockers and dressing places must follow some criteria, such as they should be kept always shiny and clean with constant maintenance, separated from production hall or said rooms, and have waste receptacles. Well-locked lockers must be provided. When it comes to the hand washing places, it should be of constant maintenance and repair, available within the premises of the toilet room or close to manufacturing hall in case needed for faster reach, equipped with running water, soap, towels along with sinks, and of course an instruction for hand washing in order to achieve the right hand washing in the right way. Constructions. When it comes to the construction, some criteria also must be followed regarding the floors, the walls, windows, and doors. So when it comes to the floors, they should be easy to clean, smooth, cracks free to avoid any contamination or microorganism spreading, non-wooden to avoid being absorbed by water, which is considered as a hazard, sloped to drain flood easily, well-sealed joints at wall to floor junctions in case needed to be cleaned and maintained, which should be on a regular basis. When it comes to the walls and ceilings, they always should be smooth, washable, light colors except the dry supply storage, which should always be kept dry, kept clean and maintained on a regular basis, as well as dust-free storage rooms, tight and easy to clean dry supply storage room. So as we get from the walls and ceilings, when it comes to a storage room, it always should be dry. So when it comes to the windows and doors, they should be following some criteria such as tight fitting. So the doors and windows should be tight fitting. They should be regularly maintained and cleaned. open in an outward direction when it comes to outside door screens, and self-closing when it comes to constant using of minimized entrances of animals, birds, insects, and rodents.
Any step of preparation ought to be of the protection sort or otherwise protected to for sale just in case of breakage. Ventilation should comply with the following. Number 1. Adequate ventilation should be provided to all rooms free from undesirable odors, smoke, dust, and excessive condensation. Number 2. Permanently installed pressure ventilating and or air conditioning equipment should be equipped with filters. Number 3. Peak ovens and fryers should be properly vented to the outside and equipped with exhaust to remove smoke and odor. The water supply should comply with the following. Number 1. The water supply should be ample for operations. Hot and cold water under pressure should be provided in all areas of the bakery. Number 2. There should be no cross connections with other water supply systems unless approved by the department. Equipment. The construction and repair of equipment should comply with the following. Number 1. All utensils and equipment utilized in the manufacture and packaging of bakery products should be made of smooth, non-absorbent, and non-toxic material. Number 2. Joints and seams should be smooth and flush welded or soldered. Facilities for equipment and utensil cleaning and sanitizing should the following. Number 1. A two-compartment sink made from corrosion-resistant material large enough to accommodate the utensils to be washed and rinsed. Number 2. All equipment and utensils, including counters, tables, refrigerators, should be kept clean and free from any contaminating materials. The storage and handling of kit should suit the following. Number 1. After cleaning, utensils and equipment should be stored during a clean, dry place, shielded from insects, dust, and other contamination. Number 2. Cleaned pans, receptacles, and utensils should be inverted or covered during a sanitary manner when not in use. Storage. Storage requiring refrigeration should comply with the following. Number 1. Adequate refrigeration facilities of an approved type should be provided for storage of frozen foods. Number 2. Perishable foods and potentially hazardous foods should be stored at a temperature of 45 Fahrenheit or below to be protected from contamination. Number 3. Frozen foods should be stored at a temperature of 0 Fahrenheit or below. The storage of work product ingredients and provides ought to accommodate the following. Number 1. Adequate storage facilities ought to be provided to safeguard work product ingredients from contamination or spoilage. Number 2. The enclosure ought to be plighted, dry, kept clean, and unbroken, freed from vermin. Number 3. Improvement materials, pesticides, rodenticides ought to be held on labeled containers in a closed rooms. Protection from contamination. In a bakery establishment, the following requires stringent protection from contamination. Number 1. All ingredients used in the preparation of bakery products should be clean, free from spoilage, and no live animals or birds should be permitted in any of the bakery rooms. Number 2. Ice used in the preparation or cooling of bakery products must be from a potable water supply and should be of safe and sanitary quality. Number 3. Only pesticides and rodenticides that are registered with the Environmental Protection Agency should be used in bakeries. Number 4. There should be no public passageway through the manufacturing rooms.
Now we are going to talk about waste disposal regulation. 1. Maintain the equipment that's responsible for preventing the littering of premises with rubbish or garbage. Store the garbage in designated area and in covered container. All liquid waste that result from cleaning and washing or rinsing of flour and utensils should be disposed of by methods approved or in public sewer. The receptacles of garbage should be washed and treated with disinfectant to prevent the contaminations and nuisance. Then establishment and inspection for bakery product and dough. By providing training material assures the safety inspection personnel, which some information of this material is modified to provide a brief discussion of FDA approaches in this establishment and inspection for these categories. Second, we are going to talk about raw material, which is there are many types of material which is represented in the following: extraneous material and the economic chemicals as a pesticide. Then test the sample by collecting the straw, which is the flour that has gone by into your system. Then if no sanitary condition are found in the sample, must be discarded by the following: by making a report for a source and type of egg, milk product, and used in processing to determine the state of sample, if it pasteurized and received under salmonella free or not, or the frozen egg are used in process. Number two, indicate type of procedures and control with taking consideration the sanitary condition. Number three, determine if the raw material is refrigerated or not and the type of examination that is implemented on the raw material. Now we are going to talk about waste disposal regulation. Processing should determine the effectiveness of metal detection and any area that occur bottleneck, which making it amenable microbial contamination to still at room temperature. Sanitation determines the disposition of returned goods, determines time temperature abuse that play a role in the growth of microbial contaminants, make a caution of unsuitable conveyor or equipment that may be added to the microbial load, examine the static accumulation for mold growth and rodent or insect with highly attention to flower beans. Standards determine the firm manufacturing, enrichment the practices that result in product conforming, determine the method of adding enrichment to the product. Sample collections. The sample should be characterized by the following: collect the minimum 3 quarters of flour in duplicate from each static point. Collect the minimum 3 quarters flour in duplicate which if two or more lots are blended the sample is minimum of 3 unopened bag from each lots. Collect the filth exhibits to document the unsanitary condition with made part of sample. Collect the 6 minimum quarters of through flour in duplicate. Sample collections parameters. Filth testing is the sample as a result from the square root of number of shipping container in a lot with 6 minimum and a maximum of 18 subsample in a duplicate. Second, microbiological testing is a representative sample consisting of 10 minimum intact units collected in a duplicate unit with the maximum size door. Each sample is 113 gram, which compliance sample should consist of 12 subsample, at least in one each in duplicate. Evaluate the enrichment sample, minerals, and the nutritional labels of bread and baked or unbaked products. Third, standard of identify is the collect sample of ingredient for identifications and sample for standardized products. Fourth, food additives. Collect sample consists of 1 to 226 gram sub of the food additives and a minimum of 6 sub of finished product in a duplicate. Fifth and finally, bakery inspection form.
So now in this slide, we are talking about the bakery inspection report. It must contain a name, the address, city, the status, the ZIP, the phone, and the email, corrections, and the samples. If any correction has been made in this course of inspection, complete the voluntary correction section of cover sheet from FDA. If any sample were collected, discuss with management, discussion with the management of continuation sheet. It must contain the signature of the inspector and the date in the end of this slide. Now, some questions must be answered by yes or no. Number one, it's about the raw material, refrigerated or non-refrigerated, and the storage. Are raw materials affected by insect infestations? Does the contamination like us from other sources like the birds and the moisture affect the quality of the raw material? Are the refrigerated items maintained at the right temperature? Are raw materials safe off the ground and far from the wall? Is the storage place free from rodent bits or insect? Are raw materials contain contaminations or adulteration? And the questions about the manufacturing area. Are the pieces of code avoided contact with the equipment, and are the equipment clean and safe? Are the equipment surrounding the area clean and safe from any contaminants? The inspection criteria. Such conveyor Are such conveyor systems free from insect activity and contaminants? Are clothes of the employee clean? Is the broken equipment free from insect? Should the equipment be cleaned before use? Building and the grounds. Is the plant in a good physical repair and suitable construction? Does the plant maintain regular cleaning program? Does the plant maintain a HACCP and GMP? Are the floor and the roofs maintained clean and regularly repaired? Do insecticides and fungicides stored away from raw material and the food products? Transportation and the facilities. Are railway and the roads close to plant? Are cars and vehicles maintained clean? Toilets, dressing rooms, and the employees. Are the employees well trained? Are toilets in a good condition, clean and safe?
I am going today to talk about the custard and cream filling for pastry. Most countries agree on the sanitation and the safety of the custard and cream filling for pastries required for stable cases. Cream mixture, custard, cream or custard filling is offered as a substance consisting primarily of a sugar, eggs, and milk, either with or without a thickening agent that is heated, cooled, and placed on a dough without subsequent heating to 180 Fahrenheit or higher safety consideration. Custard and cream filling for pastry must comply with the following requirements. First, perishable bakery product should include cream filled pie, pumpkin pie, cakes, pastries, custard consist of in whole or a part of the milk products. Second, perishable bakery product should keep maintained below 45 Fahrenheit. Third, perishable product should be labeled perishable, keep refrigerated. Fourth, uncut pumpkin, sweet potato, squash pie, baked in a shell to prevent contamination. 5. Uncut citrus meringue by filling of 4.5 pH or lower, so it not considered as a perishable product and not necessary to store in a refrigerator, only after opening it. 6. Marshmallow tipping with a sugar not perishables and not required refrigerator. 7. During the months of April, May, June, July, August, and September, custard field product should not be manufactured.